In a previous video, I said that I was going to give you one reason to love every single FBS team, all 138 of them. And I've given you the first half. Here's the second.
The ACC.
Duke. Now, you wouldn't think that they're a football school, but they hosted the freaking Rose Bowl. That's right. They were slated to go back in 1941, but that was a month after Pearl Harbor, so the military banned all public gatherings on the West Coast. So Duke said, hey, how about we just host it ourselves in Durham? And they did. They played Oregon State. Then, a few months later, a lot of those players went off to war. And Duke's backup quarterback was injured on the battlefield in Italy, and he was rescued by an Oregon State player. Proof that we are, in fact, in a simulation. Virginia. Virginia once had an unofficial mascot that was a cross-eyed mutt named Seal, and Seal could go wherever he wanted, even the opposing team's sideline, which he did one time, to pee on a cheerleader's megaphone. When Seal passed away, campus flags were ordered to be lowered at half-staff, his casket got a police escort, and his funeral was attended by over 1,500 people. But probably not that cheerleader. Clemson. In 1977, Georgia Tech said they were done playing them. So, Clemson fans that were traveling to Atlanta started paying with stuff in $2 bills, just so the city could see the economic impact that they were bringing. And the tradition stuck, and Clemson fans still load up on $2 bills when they travel to away games. It turns out that invisible P in Clemson came from the word petty. Boston College. Wells Crowther played lacrosse at BC and always carried around a red bandana that his dad had given to him years ago. And after he graduated, he got a job at the Twin Towers. He was there on 9/11, and he could have got out alive, but he took his red bandana out, wrapped it around his face, and helped lead over a dozen people out to safety. He was on his way back up to save more when the tower collapsed. Now BC plays the red bandana game every year in his honor with his parents in attendance. NC State. Most college teams get their nickname from some old sports writer waxing poetic, but not NC State. Theirs comes from an angry letter in 1921 that said they were as unruly as a pack of wolves. They weren't talking about the players. They were talking about the fans. And NC State loved it so much they took that and stitched it on all their jerseys. So yeah, the team is named after the fans. Syracuse. Oh boy, buckle up for this trifecta of absurdity. Okay? Most schools are named after like a warrior or an animal. Syracuse is named after a color, orange. And their mascot is a giant orange named Otto, even though you can't grow oranges within 2,500 miles of Syracuse, New York. Hold on, it gets weirder. They're the only Power 4 school that plays indoors on campus in a giant dome that used to be held up by air pressure. And it was named after an air conditioning company, even though the dome did not have air conditioning. What? Virginia Tech. The Hokies are the definition of a blue-collar team. Everybody knows about the lunch pail and Enter Sandman, but did you know that back in the 60s, 3 of their cadets melted down a whole bunch of belt buckles and whatever else they could find to make a 1,000-pound cannon? And then they fired said cannon at the opposing team. Literally blew their hats off. North Carolina. If they can't have your love, they at least deserve your respect because they changed the game forever. Okay? They invented the forward pass. They changed the linebacker position with Lawrence Taylor, and they're the first major college football program to be run by a 24-year-old woman. Stanford. Stanford has the only band that's been repeatedly fined by the NCAA. They've been banned from Notre Dame, Disneyland, and the governor of Oregon banned them from the entire state. But Andrew Luck, he seems like a really cool guy. I like him. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech pulled off probably the greatest revenge game of all time after they lost to Cumberland in baseball 22-0. So the Yellow Jackets, John Heisman, who coached both sports, scheduled Cumberland at football and then proceeded to beat them 222-0. Exactly 10 times the points they put on them in baseball. It's an engineering school, man. They love math. Cal. No one has a tougher rival than the Golden Bears because theirs is literally the earth. They built their stadium on an active fault line, and it's been ripping apart ever since. It's like that scene from Dark Knight Rises, except instead of Batman, it's Marshawn Lynch on a golf cart. Miami. Football is a sport, but it's also entertainment, and nobody entertains better than Miami. Remember the fatigues in '87, or introducing the turnover chain in 2017, or the time their mascot got arrested for assaulting a police officer with a fire extinguisher? If college football were pro wrestling, Miami would be Ric Flair. Woo! Louisville. Notre Dame rejected Johnny Unitas for being too skinny. Pitt flunked him because he failed his entrance exam. But Louisville took him because they said, quote, no one else wanted him. He had to save his scholarship by enrolling in square dancing. Now, the award given to the greatest quarterback in the sport is named after Johnny Unitas. Wake Forest. One of the smallest programs in FBS, and it's a Baptist school, so you would think that might give them some kind of Napoleon complex, but you're wrong. They named themselves the Demon Deacons, and they dressed him up like a Bridgerton character. And back in 1941, he mounted UNC's live ram mascot and rode him into the stadium. Oh, and he used to carry around a plunger, because plungers are funny. SMU. In 1948, their running back Doak Walker became pretty much the first movie star of the sport. He was on 47 magazine covers. He was getting over 100 fan letters a day, and he drew such big crowds that SMU had to move their home games to the Cotton Bowl. Probably heard of it. And to this day, there's still a plaque that reads, "The house that Doak built," on the Cotton Bowl. Florida State. As a Gator fan, this one hurts a little, but it's undeniable. If tradition is the slow-burning coal that powers the furnace of college football, Florida State's got a whole mine. The war chant, Unconquered, the sod cemetery. And if Chief Osceola planting that spear at the 50-yard line don't get you fired up, you ain't living. I'm sorry, Gator. I'm going to take a bath after this. Pitt. This video does not exist without Pitt. They had the genius idea back in the day to send a local radio broadcaster to West Virginia to give a play-by-play over the radio of their biggest game of the year. And he did. And that became the very first live broadcast of the sport. And then sometime after that, we ruined it with blackouts.
Or you could just use SeatGeek and go to the game.
Yeah, SeatGeek sponsored this video. And did you know that with over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 ticketing app in the nation? There are over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, and it's way more than just football games. They've got basketball, baseball, concerts, festivals. And I know what you're thinking, Matt, how do you know so much about SeatGeek? Well, because I love it. I love it because every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And when you're going to an event, you can pull up a map of the arena or the stadium and see exactly which seats are for sale. There'll be little dots. Green means that's a good deal. And then it goes all the way to red, which means not a good deal. And of course, I got a code for y'all. Use the code MATT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. Make sure you click the link down in the description to download the app and have that code automatically added when you check out. And once again, thanks SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. The Mountain West. UTEP, the greatest Western ballad of all time, is also the greatest fight song of all time. El Paso by Marty Robbins is UTEP's fight song, just sped up with a few lyrical changes. Go listen to it. Northern Illinois. The Huskies have a wall they call the Boneyard. And after NIU upsets a Power 5 team, they take a bone and inscribe the date and score of the game and hang it above the logo of the school they just beat. Alabama, Iowa, Nebraska, Notre Dame all have bones on that wall. And if that school does not chant, "You just got boned" after they beat them, it's just a wasted opportunity. New Mexico. New Mexico used to have a live wolf mascot. And it bit a kid back in 1920, and university officials had to put the wolf down, and said at the time they did so in case another ill-bred brat tried to play with the wolf and sue the school. And that wolf is now on display at the school's Natural History Museum. And no, you ill-bred brat, you can't play with it. San Jose State. The San Jose State Spartans sailed to Hawaii for a pair of charity games back in 1941, and it was 4 days before Pearl Harbor. The games didn't happen, but 7 Spartan football players stayed behind on the island and joined the very same force that they came down to raise money for. Wyoming. The night before home games, Wyoming's band storms the local bars. Like 30-something kids pile in with their trumpets and trombones and play the fight song like 3 feet from your nachos. It is not a parade. It is an ambush. UNLV. Most college alma maters were written over a century ago. UNLV's is from 1998. It was created by Eric Whitacre, a Grammy-winning composer who enrolled at the school over a decade before that, unable to read sheet music. He actually joined the school choir because he heard they take an annual trip to Mexico and he knew there'd be girls and tequila. Hawaii. In 1923, a rainbow showed up mid-game against Oregon State. Hawaii stormed back to win, and a belief took hold that if a rainbow shows up, the Rainbow Warriors can't lose. And it kind of tracks if you think about it, because remember Noah? He also never lost a football game. Air Force. Cadets save the cheese off their dining hall cheeseburgers all week and then throw them onto the field when they score. And they call it spirit cheese. Actually, leadership has tried to ban this activity, but the cadets keep sneaking the cheese anyway, which I guess, if you think about it, makes them stealth bombers. Nevada. In 2005, Nevada coach Chris Salt invented the pistol offensive formation. And it took hold and spread to hundreds of colleges, even the NFL, and the PlayStation 5, where my college football dynasty is. I've won over like 40 straight championships with it. I'm unstoppable. Thanks, Chris. The Sun Belt, Appalachian State. Not only have the Mountaineers given us the most aesthetically pleasing stadium elevation with exactly 3,333 feet, they've also given us the biggest upset in college football history when they knocked off number 5 ranked Michigan in the Big House. Vegas didn't even issue a line for that game. And to top it all off, that was the first game ever broadcast on the brand new Big Ten network. Georgia State. The Panthers play football at what used to be called Turner Field. You remember the Olympic cauldron that sits right across the street? It's still there, but it hadn't been lit since Muhammad Ali did it back in '96. But then Georgia State relit it in 2020 for the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials. The athletic director actually did it from his phone with an app, and probably while he was sitting still on 85. Louisiana. They used to have a mascot called the Fabulous Cajun Chicken, and the fans loved him, but then they replaced him with a man in a cayenne pepper costume. And then they got rid of that 10 years later because of budget cuts. So right now, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns do not have a mascot, although I think we all know just the man for the job. Old Dominion. In 2005, Old Dominion's dance team went to a camp and heard the song Ice Cream and Cake by the Buckwheat Boys for the first time.
Ice cream and cake, do the ice cream and cake. Ice cream and cake, do the ice cream.
They thought it was ridiculous, and rightfully so, but then they decided to make a routine to it and perform it. 20 years later, it's still performed at the halftime of every Monarch home football game. So it could be worse. There is Baby Shark. Marshall. You probably know about Marshall losing their football team in a plane crash in 1971, and you probably know about Randy Moss. But do you know about the legend of Byron Leftwich? Marshall played in the first ever midweek action game in 1999, and their teams in the early 2000s, led by Byron Leftwich, put it on the map. Actually, in 2002, against Akron, Byron Leftwich broke his leg, but he kept playing, and his lineman carried him to the line of scrimmage between plays. Anything for the action, baby. UL Monroe. Louisiana Monroe used to be the Indians, but in 2006 they changed their name to the Warhawks to honor Major General Claire Lee Chenault, a Monroe man who led the Flying Tigers in World War II. And now their mascot Ace flies down to the field every game looking like this. That's it. I just thought you should see that. James Madison. Every time the Dukes cross the goal line at Bridgeforth Stadium, the fans throw purple and gold streamers in the air to celebrate. It actually is a tradition that started in the 80s with the basketball team, but they threw toilet paper, and the refs did not like that. Lots of technical fouls. So they moved the tradition outside to the football field, and they swapped it out with purple and gold streamers. And so, it's whee! This looks like a fun time. Troy. Before every Troy home game, the marching band stops playing. The PA announcer comes over the loudspeakers and recites Julius Caesar, and the entire crowd yells back at him in unison,
"Cry heaven! And let slip the dogs of war."
It's the only FBS school whose pregame traditions involve Shakespeare, and it's in Pike County, Alabama. Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina's live mascot is a Japanese Shamo rooster named Maddox. And every game, they take that little guy, bathe him in dish soap, make him look real pretty, put him in a cage, and parade him around the stadium, while the PA announcer plays Zach Brown's Chicken Fried, which does not match the vibe. Southern Miss. Every year at Southern Miss's final home game, the Pride of Mississippi Marching Band and the Alumni Band come together at midfield to close out their halftime performance with a rendition of Amazing Grace. And it is amazing as it sounds. They probably also do all 4 verses because it is Mississippi. Arkansas State. Arkansas State's mascot is a red wolf named Howl, and he made his debut in 2008 at a football game by riding a motorcycle wearing a black leather jacket. But before that, Howl had big old fangs, but they took him out because they thought it was too scary. So now look at him. He ain't gonna bite you. Georgia Southern. When Georgia Southern restarted their football program in 1981, they had no money for transportation. So a local school district sold them 2 buses for $1 each. And Georgia Southern rode those buses to every game. They went on to win 6 FCS national championships over 20 years. And Georgia Southern still rides those yellow school buses to every game. South Alabama. South Alabama's first football team in 2009 had a running back named Anthony Mastella. He's even one of the team's first captains. He tragically passed away in a motorcycle accident the following summer. And every season since, South Alabama's head coach gives Mostella's number 5 jersey to a senior who earned it. La Tech. In 1899, 5 students found a stray bulldog and brought him back home. And that very night, their boarding house caught fire. The bulldog woke everyone by tugging on their bed sheets, but when they got outside, they realized that one student was still missing. And the bulldog ran back in and saved him. But unfortunately, the dog died from the smoke. They buried him wrapped in their red and blue jackets. And a year later, they named their football team the Bulldogs in his honor. Now, that's a good boy. The MAC. Western Michigan. There's an Amtrak line that runs right past the north end zone, and when the train comes by, the engineer honks at all the fans. And Amtrak lets the passengers know ahead of time that there's a game so they can all go to the windows and wave. I'm sure the kids love it. Ohio. In 2010, a kid tried out to be Ohio's mascot, Rufus the Bobcat, for one specific reason: to attack Ohio State's mascot. He waited all year long, and when he finally got his moment, he charged after and tackled Ohio's Brutus the Buckeye in front of 100,000 people. He lost his head somewhere in the shuffle, went back, picked it up, and then just punched him in the face. Probably not something to celebrate, but it is a heck of a story. Toledo. In 1961, the U.S. Army gifted Toledo an actual missile. Now it sits outside their stadium painted midnight blue and gold, and the school says it is positioned in such a way that if you were to light it, it would lift off and then land at exactly the 50-yard line of Bowling Green's football field. That is a rivalry and a war crime. Bowling Green. In 1946, the school president summoned 6 students to his office at midnight and made them swear an oath to form a secret society. Their job was to promote school spirit. They wore masks and used high-pitched voices to conceal their identity, and they still do it today. So, apparently it works. Massachusetts. Bless them. They moved up to big-time football in 2012 and had to play their home games 90 miles away at the Patriots Stadium. They had to buy their own tickets and give them away just to meet the NCAA's attendance minimum. 0 bowl games in 13 years. They just went 0-12. UMass clearly loves football, just unfortunately does not love them back. Buffalo. In 1951, the Bulls went 8-1 and earned the school's first ever bowl invitation to the Tangerine Bowl in Orlando, Florida. But Orlando told them that their 2 black players could not come. So the team gathered and voted unanimously to turn the bowl invitation down. And Buffalo would not get another bowl invitation for 50 years. They paid for that vote. They paid for it with purpose. And that's cooler than any Amtrak train. Kent State. You know them as the Golden Flashes, but from 1968 to 1974, their mascot was Grog. Grog the Caveman from the comic strips. Somebody at Kent State liked it and asked if he could be the mascot, and they got permission. So for 6 years, on the sideline roamed an 8-foot-tall caveman that looked like this. Akron. Akron's nickname is the Zips, which is short for zippers, which is actually named after a rubber overshoe that is made in Akron that had a zipper. And their mascot is a kangaroo, and they do not make kangaroos in Akron. Eastern Michigan. I wasn't going to mention any non-green playing surfaces because frankly I don't care for them, but then I found out that Eastern Michigan actually plays on a gray field because it is legally the closest thing they could get to concrete. Their coach told his team that they had to be ready to play anyone, anytime, anywhere, even in a parking lot covered in broken glass. I just know that I would not cross that coach at a Waffle House at 2 a.m. Ball State. It's the only school in America where you can drink your game day beer out of the cup that's literally named after the university. The Ball brothers built the school with money they made from their mason jars. A century later, and you're still drinking out of the cup. Cheers and chirp chirp. That's the thing they do. Miami, Ohio. They're the only school that has had 3 Super Bowl winning coaches go there. Woody Hayes went there. They called this place the Cradle of Coaches, which I would make that official because Miami, parentheses, Ohio, can get confusing. Central Michigan. Central Michigan student section plays the air cymbals. It's a tradition they started after one of the band members started crashing his. Also, they all wave their keys in the air before key plays. Get it? They got some jokes. Fire up, Chips. The SEC. Woo! Alabama. If you're not a fan of Alabama, then you almost certainly hate them. But you can't deny how physical and tough the Crimson Tide is, and that history goes all the way back to their very first All-American, Bully Vandergraaf, who almost lost his ear playing against Tennessee. He actually tried to rip it all the way off so he could keep playing, but his teammates encouraged him to stop that. Also, Bully had a little brother named Robert who was too injured to ever play football. You may have heard him, Robert Vandergraaf. He invented the Van de Graaff generator. Roll Science. Auburn. You think they roll Toomer's trees after a win just for fun, but no, there's history there. That goes back to Toomer's Drugs having the only telegraph in town. And they would get news of Auburn winning on the road, and then they would take the ticker tape and throw it in the trees to let everyone know the Tigers won. The tradition stuck. And now they roll the trees for wins home or away in pretty much any sport. Even equestrian, where Auburn has a freaking dynasty. Texas. In 1917, Texas A&M cadets branded the Texas Longhorn mascot 13-0. Texas responded by turning that Longhorn steer into barbecue and serving it to A&M at a banquet. And then, in 1953, Oklahoma started shooting shotguns to celebrate touchdowns. Texas responded by engineering a cannon specifically made so it is loud enough to drown out the sound of shotgun blasts. So yes, everything is bigger in Texas, especially revenge. LSU. Besides the fact that LSU is probably the only place on earth you can be told go to hell and then immediately offered the best bowl of gumbo of your life, they're also the only major college football program that marks every 5-yard lines instead of 10. They're one of only 3 FBS schools still using the H-style goalpost. And when the NCAA said that home teams had to wear their dark jerseys, LSU fought them tooth and nail until they were allowed to wear their whites at home again. So just so you know, LSU is going LSU, and if you don't like it, then they have some words for you, and you might understand half of them. Kentucky. Their football program may get overlooked, but they will forever hold a special place in my heart, thanks to one particular player. Wildcats' all-time passing leader, 6'4", 285-pound left-handed quarterback named Jared Lorenzen, a.k.a. the Hefty Lefty. He broke Tim Couch's school records. He won a Super Bowl ring backing up Eli Manning for the Giants, and he was impossible to take down. Jared Lorenzen was Kentucky football. Built different and better for it. R.I.P. South Carolina. Now, I could talk about Sandstorm or the Cabooses or how they have hilariously managed to put the word Cox on every piece of merch imaginable, but we need to give them credit for being the only team to model their entrance onto the field after Elvis. In 1981, ex-Gamecock quarterback Tommy Suggs watched Elvis go onto the stage to the sound of the horns from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and he went back and told the team, hey, if it's good enough for Elvis, good enough for us. Pretty daggum cocky. Georgia. Hunker down, Silver Britches. Between the hedges, Georgia has given so much tradition and lore to college football. And did you know that they are the only program that buries their dead mascots inside the stadium, each one with their own marble vault? Georgia loves UGA, and rightfully so. You can't tell me there ain't nothing better to see on a Saturday in the fall than UGA sprawled out on a big old bag of ice. Oklahoma. From 1953 to 1957, Bud Wilkinson's Sooners won 47 straight games. It's still the NCAA record today. The week the streak ended, Sports Illustrated ran a cover that said why Oklahoma is unbeatable. And then Notre Dame proceeded to beat them 7-0 the next Saturday. So even if you can't love Oklahoma, you got to feel for them because they were the first college football team to have the cover curse. Ole Miss. If tailgate chandeliers ain't your thing, then love Ole Miss because they carry the spirit of Chucky Mullins into every game. In 1989, a tragic hit left Mullins paralyzed, but his injury transformed a fan base. Because now the most resilient player on the Rebels team wears number 38 in his honor. And every player touches a bronze bust of Chucky Mullins before they step out onto the field. So yeah, Oxford may turn into one giant party on Saturday, but they've got a soul. And that soul is most definitely wearing a bow tie. Tennessee. In 1962, Vols announcer George Mooney got fed up with Knoxville traffic. So he drove his boat up the Tennessee River to the stadium. The fans followed. Today, up to 400 boats dock outside Neyland Stadium for a home game. 60 years of tradition. And they still haven't figured out how to make I-40 work. Come on, y'all. It's not that hard. I just want to get to Gatlinburg in under 12 hours. Okay? Fanny Farkles ain't open 24/7. Your boy wants a corn dog. Vanderbilt. I really wanted to steer clear of a team's reason for being loved boiled down to just one single game, but I mean, how can you not talk about their 40-35 upset of number 1 Alabama back in 2024? Their fans dismantled the goalpost. They carried them 3 miles through downtown Nashville, then tossed them in the Cumberland River. It was the story of the season, and it had the whole country smiling at their sweet baby boy Diego. Until he opened his mouth about a year later, but we're going to keep it positive here. So moving on. Mississippi State. You think I'm going to talk about the Cowbells? Yeah, because I'm going to talk about the Cowbells. See, that's the thing that makes Mississippi State special, is because every other school is banned from doing it. But not State. State fans love their Cowbells. They even pass them down like other families pass down their Bibles. The rougher your bell looks, the more respected you are. Which is why I feel an immense amount of shame when I put that shiny cowbell on my desk for roll call. I feel it's very real, y'all. Arkansas. Yeah, we could talk about the hog call, but let's talk about Hard to Humble. It's a 1980s country song that they all sing after victory, and it's literally a song about perfection being a burden. All 76,000 Hog fans swaying, singing the ultimate country swagger song after they win, and I hope we get to hear it again soon. Texas A&M. In the 1922 Dixie Classic, A&M ran out of healthy players. So the coach called a former member of the squad down from the press box and had him suit up, standing on the sideline on the ready. E. King Gill never made it into the game, and A&M won anyway. But still, a century later, Aggies fans stand for the entire game in his honor. And he has not one statue on campus, but 2. Because this is Texas, and we can. Missouri. They invented homecoming in 1911 after the athletic director invited the alumni to come home to watch them play Kansas. And yes, there are several other schools that claim to be first, but Missouri is the only one that has Trivial Pursuit and Jeopardy on their side. It's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Florida. I mean, I am partial, but what's not to love about the orange and blue? I mean, come on, the Chomp syncing it up with the band as they play the theme from Jaws. Steve Spurrier throwing his visor down on the ground in anger, subbing out every quarterback in the depth chart in a single quarter. Tim freaking Tebow won't back down. Mr. Two Bits, we are the boys of old Florida. I mean, whew. They made a kid from Alabama whose parents were split. Alabama and Auburn fall in love with them. Yeah, if all of that is not enough for you, fine. Give them credit, though, because they invented Gatorade. Unless you're one of those weirdos that drink Powerade.